To kick off, this is one thing that I have not done and I've neglected. I probably should do it. First, let me tell you, my name is Larry Crabtree. I'm the interim fire chief for the Mi-Wuk Certified Fire Protection District. And as I mentioned before, I'm the interim chief until and unless I pass the background and the psych test and the board has a meeting, and the board hasn't had a meeting yet. But what I haven't done is I haven't introduced my board. So, that probably would help a little bit. Chuck Wagner is the president of the board. Is Bill Robertson, or Bill Schneiderman.
Try Schneiderman, yeah, it works better.
Is Bill Schneiderman here? He's a board member also. I think he's the vice president. John Johnson, John in the back, halfway back here. Dale Armstrong is not here. He's on vacation. He took off on vacation about a week before we started this fire. And the last board member, the fifth board member is Mike Welsh. Is Mike here? Okay. Did I name all five of them?
Yep.
Good. That's the first test I have to pass. I have a couple of announcements. First of all, I just got a phone call from my captain on engine 772, and he said that to tell all of you folks that he's hearing from the firefighters that we've got from actually from all over. There's even a strike team here from Story County, Nevada, which is the Reno area. And he said that he's hearing from all of the firefighters about how amazing this community is. And you know, like I coined the phrase the other day, it's a community of neighbors. It's still that way. He said that they are even saying things to him like, wow, the children in this community are so well behaved. Now, he didn't say anything about the adults. And I have an announcement here from the Red Cross. They would like me to please announce that the Red Cross is looking for those volunteers who took disaster training, I guess it was some time ago, to call them because they want to activate you or reactivate you or retrain you or something. And the phone number to call is 209-533-1513. 209-533-1513. Real quick on a couple other announcements, and then I'll turn it over to Marty so that he can, in case he has to go somewhere else. There are some more pamphlets in the back. On the table as you came in. This one, we still have that one. If you haven't picked that one up, pick that one up. The others that we did get some more of this Ready, Set, Go. Now this one is Are You Ready to Go? There's another one back there that looks a lot like it. It says Are You Set? So if you haven't picked up both of these, please feel free to do so. This one is the fourfold one. It folds out 4 times. It's the one I really like because it says a lot of information in 4 pages, an awful lot. It's my favorite. And then later I will pass out some others. This is a handout. I'll pass these out as we get going in the meeting, and it's an evacuation information similar to this, but it's just a single sheet of paper that you can fold up and stick in your pocket. I brought my Gatorade. Some of you will remember yesterday. And I'm going to go ahead and since Marty's here, I think let's talk about where the fire is and what it did last night. So Marty, I'll turn it over to you at this time. Marty Bentley from the Incident Management Team.
Good afternoon, folks. This crowd, I've been here several times and the crowd is shrinking, and that means I'm either doing a good job here or doing a good job out there. Either way, I'm glad. So yeah, we got some good news to share with you today, and again, I'll do pretty much a summary of what's going on around the fire, and then concentrate my effort if you have any questions later on about what's happening right here on your back door. So, Division Bravo, Alpha, Sierra, we continue to hold that line. Looks really well. We've seen no movement in the fire there for the past couple days. Sierra and Romeo, we still have this line in place that ties it back into Highway 120. Still feel real confident about that. We're just letting that thing back down off the mountain to do less resource damage, and we're just kind of cleaning that up as it comes down to us. Moving over here into Division N, we did fire around the Aspen Valley structures there, and those folks are out and The next logical control line is here on this road, so think like we have protected all of these structures here and feel real good about that in developing a plan to make a stand on the road here. Moving up into the upper part of N and M, Division Mike, again, this continues to move very little, but it is moving. We're not really concentrating a whole lot of effort up there. We expect that to run up into the granite and just run out of fuel, so pretty good about that. Over here in Division Lima, we have some spots across this 3N01 road, and those are all caught now. We all have containment line around them, and as of an hour ago, there's no movement in there. So currently the fire is contained south of this road, which we feel real good about, which is where we hope to contain it. So right now we have no movement north of this road, so that's a really good sign. Make no mistake about it, the fire does continue to burn in some areas, but we're checking that up where we think there's going to be a problem. Coming over here into Foxtrot, we have this control line in place, or is going to be in place very soon, by the end of shift today or possibly early tomorrow. Again, these equipment forces are working 24 hours a day. So we have this contingency line here. You can look at that later. But also we're looking for alternate sites to cut this off and make it as small as possible to minimize resource damages. So always keeping that in mind, always keeping safety in mind. It's gotten in here in the forks of the Clavy and the Hole, and so that limits our control points when you look at the map. So that's what's happening in Foxtrot. Coming around to Echo, we did some burn-in operations last night, and continuing today. Should have this tied in later on tonight. We're taking that real slow. The weather's just a little bit different out there today, so every day presents its own challenges. But I just talked to our air attack before I came in here, and he said they're having no holding problems at this time. So got some really good reports of that. And along Division Delta, it's starting to pick up some activity in here where there's some unburned pockets of green fuel in here, but again, no holding problems. So in summary, by the end of shift tonight and early tomorrow, we hope to have all of this burnout all the way up to here in Division Echo, and that will turn all this black, which in effect would protect most of these communities in this area right here. So stay tuned. We're not out of the woods yet. But we feel really good about our actions so far, and so that's kind of what's going on there. So
thanks, Marty. A couple other things I want to talk about. I'm going to turn it over in just a minute to, is it Spinharney?
Yes, sir.
I got the last name correct. And he's leading the structure group of fire engines that you've been seeing here for the last, I think, 3 days now, and nights. So he's here to talk a little bit about that. But I also want to let you know that in coordination with this fire, there's been a lot of work going on what we call the shaded fuel break that runs from actually north of Longbarn all the way down to Coffle Road. There's work going on again today. They're still working on it. They put dozer lines in through there to broaden it. The shaded fuel break is where they came in and took out all the undergrowth, limbed the trees up so that you could see through it, so that if we have to, we can go in and do exactly what they did, which is put a dozer line in. If they hadn't done that work 3, 4, 5 years ago to establish that shaded fuel break, what took them one night shift to accomplish, night before last, would have taken 3 or 4 days to accomplish. So it was well worth the expenditure. It was a good fire prevention effort, and it was taken advantage of. There's still some work going on because there are some parts of that you can't work with dozers and mastigators, but they have to get in with hand crews and work. So what you will see down below the Mi-Wuk village area all day today, some of you probably woke up to the sound of chainsaws running. They're using the chainsaws to limb the trees up, to cut the underbrush that's grown up since they did the work in there. They're not falling any large trees, they're not doing a massive eradication project. But they are cleaning that up, and you're hearing that because that's in an area where they can't work it with dozers and masticators, so they're doing it with hand crews. They've got 2 strike teams of hand crews, one starting from each end, working back towards each other. So I want to let you know that that's going on. It's very likely that that project will be finished and completed today, and we may not see any of those resources. And as the fire shifts, remember I said wildfire is a dynamic thing, it moves. It's never in the same place. When we start this meeting, it's in one spot. When we end the meeting, it'll be somewhere else. So as the focus shifts and as the control lines begin to grow, the threat to our community will diminish and the threat to the other communities will increase, and so they will begin to shift resources. So once they get that work done and they're satisfied with it on the shaded fuel break, we'll probably see those resources go away. I doubt if we'll see the strike team of structure groups group engines go away for a day or two. You probably don't know what the plan is, but I think we'll see that for another couple of days. So I don't want to frighten you, I just want to let you know that there's work going on. Once the work's completed, they'll put those crews to work somewhere else. They don't take a vacation. Okay, now I'd like to turn over to Mr. Spinhardy. If you could just say a couple words about what you guys are doing and what we can do to help you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Spinhardy. I'm a battalion chief with CAL FIRE in the San Benito, Monterey area. Some of you may recognize my last name. If you don't, you may have known my parents, Dr. Stephen Spinhardy and Mary Spinhardy, who basically had a cabin in a retirement home at the end of Coteo for about 50 years. I'm a local. I learned how to golf at the Mi-Wuk pool. I learned how to swim at the Mi-Wuk pool. I learned how to ski at Dodge Ridge. I worked at Twainard Lake. And the very first day I ever spent in my fire service career was the fire engine here at the Mi-Wuk Volunteers. The very first call I ever went on in my career. So my position at the fire is, my title is the 108 Structure Branch. And what that means basically is I'm in charge of a geographical area and a group of leaders and firefighters that spans basically from Tuolumne City all the way up to Pinecrest. So you can't see it on this map, but I can't be in charge of all those people. There's about basically about 20 strike teams of engines and then 5 engines per strike team and water tenders and hand crews and bulldozers. So I can't do that by myself. So in layman's terms, I'm a finger pointer. And I tell people where to go, and those people tell their folks where to go, and then the guys that are really doing it for you, you've met them all, are the guys out in the fire engines. So those are the guys out there, and if things get bad, those are the guys that are going to try and defend your homes. So it's broken up into basically 7 geographical areas, and starting down here, we have Tuolumne, then an area we call Sherwood, an area we call Competence, an area we call Mi-Wuk, an area we call Long Barn, an area we call Cold Springs, and we finish up with Pinecrest. And each one of those areas has what we call a group supervisor. So I supervise those group supervisors. So when this incident started, a decision was made by the incident command team that the fire behavior was such and close enough that it warranted an organization of this structure protection branch in that 108 corridor. So once that decision was made, personnel were picked out. I was assigned to that. We made the decision on how many geographical areas we were going to break into, and we assigned the resources. Now, there were some days where the fire looked really close, and then there are days when the fire looks very far away. The decision was made to put this organization together, bring the engines up into the area, and the whole idea there was, even though it was a little ways off, was for the engine companies who were from all over California to start orienting themselves with your communities. So some of these, a lot of these engines and these leaders of these groups have never been here, but 48 hours later, they know this area better than I do. I've had some of those guys take me to places, since I was born, I've been coming here, and they were taking me places today that I had never been before. So that tells you about the effort that they've been putting in to orientate themselves through your area. So that's what they're here doing, and they're glad to be here, and they love the support they're getting from all of you. And we are going to be here for probably a couple more shifts. There might be, maybe you'll see in a couple days, there's going to be maybe less resources, but that's all based on the success that they're having taking care of the fire, going direct on the fire line. So even though we're out here getting ready to defend your homes, This is also defending your homes. The guys that are out on the line with the bulldozers and the hand crews direct on the fire line, that's also a group of guys defending your home. Thank you very much. I'll stick around for a little bit if you have any questions.
I think it's time for Scott. Scott Johnson has been here with us every single day since the start. I think tomorrow, today is the seventh day, isn't it?
I think so.
I think today's the seventh day that we've done this meeting. Scott's been with us since the beginning. Really appreciate his input and bring us good news.
All right, let's review. What level of evacuation are we at right now? 5 or 8. All right, we're good. We're feeling really confident about things that are happening. I left this meeting yesterday. The sheriff and I drove down to Tuolumne City. We had just received, I think, 60 or 70 new law enforcement officers, mainly from Fresno, Madera, Calaveras, those areas. They were all geared up, ready to go, looked great. We are going to hang on to them for a couple days, just to be sure. I have some great news for our neighbors on the south side. We had that mandatory order up in the area of Clements, Graham Ranch. At 6 o'clock tonight, that's going to be lifted. Those people will be allowed back in their homes. The area will be repopulated. It's great news. The sheriff's office will remain there to allow, after an order, we only allow residents back in. We just don't want to open it up to a bunch of vacant houses. So until all the residents are back in there, the sheriff's office will remain there. PG&E's volunteered to be there, have crews there. If there's any power issues, they're going to be there to help the residents when they re-enter. And then the fire service up there is going to be up there and assist with any way they can with these people getting back in their homes. So it's great news for those 15 to 18 homes down there. And that's directly related to the great job those firefighters did around P&I. So outstanding job, that's good news, and hopefully we can move that good news up in the next couple of days.
I guess I'm going to let Fred close from this forest, the Stanislaus Forest. Fred Wong is the district ranger for the Mi-Wuk Ranger District on an assignment.
Thanks. I thought maybe I'd tell you a little bit about the resources that have been affected out there on the Mi-Wuk Ranger District, and kind of a little bit more on the long-range plans for restoration. Because I know yesterday we talked a little bit about kind of immediate rehab for the dozer lines and that sort of stuff, staging areas, and I know I talked a little bit about kind of the what's called the burn area emergency response, which really focuses on trying to stop the excessive erosion. But what about beyond that? What about the trees? What about the vegetation? Well, from the resources that we currently have out there, from the 87 complex fire, we did a lot of tree planting, and so as a result, they're about 20-something years old right now, and they were 20-something years old. But unfortunately, at that stage, they are not high enough off the ground to have the fire sweep underneath them. And also, they were really kind of packed in there as well. So that did not lend itself to avoiding the fire. So a lot of the plantations, a lot of the areas that we planted in the late 80s, early 90s have been burnt up and destroyed. Now there were also some areas that were what we call our under contract, where we sold the rights to log those areas. Some of those have been logged, others have not. Some of those have been burnt over, so what we're going to do is probably do some salvage logging as soon as this fire is over, and collect some funds to help do restoration efforts after that. But it's going to be a really tough, long journey, because what happens out there is if we don't do any plantings, what will happen is a lot of the shrubs will outcompete the trees, and it'll be a really tight conversion from forested areas to trying to more shrubby areas. And I've seen that in other areas of the nation where there was no tree planting. So it's going to be a long effort. It's going to be a forest-wide effort. Fortunately, they're not going to abandon Groveland and Mi-Wuk, the Stanislaus. They're going to help out as a forest-wide effort to help do some of these plantations. So that's all I had.
Yeah, I probably should mention a little bit because we're really, this section right here is the one that just tickles me pink. Because you remember looking at that yesterday, there was a little red line right there. And if it escaped, it was pointed right straight at us. It didn't escape. They controlled it overnight. They've held it all day today. And I'm just tickled pink with that. So now my focus, because this is really my community, and I'm concerned about Pinecrest, and I'm concerned about Long Barn. And the team is concerned about all of this. But what you will see us talking about in these meetings in the days to come, and we may only have one more meeting depending on how things go tonight. We will have a meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock here. But depending on how things go between now and then, we may just simply reschedule them back down to the firehouse, or we may schedule them every other day or something, depending on how things go. So my focus now, and what we're going to be talking about, is what happens after the fire. Because even though the fire's still going here, we are almost, in our community, we are almost in a position of, okay, now what? The fire's out, now what? We're almost there. I don't want to say we're there yet, but we're getting real close. So one of the things that you'll see happening is rehab teams, what I would call rehab teams, and they probably have different names for them. You mentioned one of the names for them, but they're teams of specialists that come in after a major incident like this and start to reconstruct and rebuild the ground and the fuel and the not the fuel, well, it's fuel, I guess, if it's dead. The native environment, the natural environment, they start to rebuild it, get it back to where it should be, and they help nature and they encourage nature to get back to where it is. Slow the erosion down, stop the erosion, work on that kind of stuff. So I suspect if we don't already have some rehab specialists on board beginning to work on some of this black line down here, it won't be very many days and they'll start showing up. And we'll see them in our community. You may not notice them because they come in early in the morning and pick up, they'll drive down, they'll walk up and down the fuel break, they'll look at it, they'll say, well, we need to do X, Y, and Z, and they'll start working that way. So we'll see that in the very near future. I think that's all I wanted to say, so we'll open it up for questions. If we're going to do question and answers the same way we did before. If you want to ask a question, raise your hand, we'll get you a microphone. And if you have a microphone, you can ask the question and we'll all listen.
I have the first question for Marty. You mentioned that they're letting it burn around Hetch Hetchy, is that true? And is that a different jurisdiction, and does Yosemite like to let things burn for the sequoias to germinate better?
Okay, a lot of questions there. You're limited to one. Right, there is some efforts to minimize, to tie this off if we can. We're going to do that, but that's right. There's no logical control point, no geographic feature that we can get in there safely and cut this thing off. So we're going to have to let it come to us. We fight fire on our own terms, so we're going to have to let that back off right there. And it is in the park, so it is a different jurisdiction, although we have a delegation of authority to take action in there. As far as the sequoias go, they've been around a long time, so they're very adaptive in that way, especially the big ones can withstand some heat. So although we're doing some efforts to protect some of them, we're pretty confident some of the other ones will do just fine.
Marty, I've got a question for you. I'm right here, right in front of you. It's just been noted that we've got drones overhead. How effective have they been? One, and two, why can't we use the military technology that has been available since the 1980s, to load drones up and drop fire retardant from heavy drones?
Okay, how effective have they been? They've been very effective. In fact, yesterday was the first time we had them out all the time, and they did a very good job. In fact, they helped us while we were burning out Division Delta, and we could look at that real time and see what was going on there. And in fact, it picked up some of the spots that happened right when they were occurring, so we were able to work in conjunction with some of our helicopters and get them in there. So that worked very well. I'm just going to be honest with you and tell you, I don't know why we don't use some of the other technology, whether there's, I don't know. If it's out there, there may be some proprietary issues with the military. I can't speak to that. And I don't know if they make a drone that would carry that much water.
Yes, they do.
Okay, so if they do, I can't answer that question.
I just have a comment of information that the community of Twainhard is having a dinner at Epperson Park tonight at 5:30, sitting, and 7 o'clock sitting for anyone on the fire team.
If you got that, that's good. If you didn't get it, we have a notice on our sandwich board at the Mi-Wuk Fire Station that has that information. So if you didn't get that down, you can stop and talk to this young lady here on the way out, or just swing by the fire station and that information is on the sandwich board at the firehouse. I'm also going to put a plug in for the VIPs before I go to the next question. I've got applications for VIPs if you're interested in helping out. I've got application forms here today that I will hand out. Go ahead.
I was wondering if you could expand on our conversation earlier about the work going on in Sierra Park for the refueling.
Oh, yes. They're building I think either a refueling or a portable mixing plant at Oddfellows Park. Do you have any information on that?
It's very, very limited. Yeah.
I think it's a helicopter.
So I have not been down there and seen that, but if it is what we call a mixing plant, what that is it's a portable retardant mixing base. And how that's set up is, anyone bound down to Tuolumne? I had a chance to come out of Tuolumne and see the mixing base that's right next to the casino. So if it's a retardant mixing base, that's what it is. So what they do is they take the red retardant that gets dropped out of the air tankers, and they mix it and they fill a very, very, very large tank with it. And then the very large Type 1 helicopters, the Sikorsky Sky Cranes that you also see logging, well, they come right in there and they stick their snorkel down in that and they suck the retardant out of that, and then they go apply it to the fire. So they're mobile, and the benefit of that is there's very short turnaround. And the retardant works very well. Water works well, but retardant works a little bit better. And so it gets the retardant much closer to the operation. So if that's what that is, and I don't know if it is either, but that's what it is, if it's a retardant mixing base.
I heard about the action going on this morning, and I'm sure it's either just a refueling point or a portable retardant mixing base. And one of the reasons they would want to do that is, if you look at the map, right now a lot of the fire activity or firefighting activity is taking place here. If they're up here in this corner and they fly to Sierra Village, which is just barely off this map, that's a much shorter turnaround than flying all the way down here to Tuolumne and back. So they're doing that. The reason it's portable so they can put it closer to where the work is. So that's probably why they're setting it up at that location, because it's a safe place. It's not around a developed community in the sense that there's a lot of other traffic or looky-loos that get in the way and might hinder the helicopter operations. And it's closer to where they're actually doing the work. Next question.
Is North Tuolumne and regular Tuolumne Road out of Sonora is open now, is it?
Yep, the casino only.
Yes, that was another piece of good news. We were able to open North Tuolumne Road, the entire stretch, except for Ponderosa Hills is still closed to residents only. Tuolumne Road, we're open all the way down to Cherry Valley Boulevard, where the clinic sits on the corner. So we're open all the way in. But Tuolumne City still is closed to residents and law enforcement firefighters only.
They got full. Somebody does.
Thank you. I'm Joseph DiFilippo, resident of Sherwood Forest. First of all, I want to thank you guys for a fine job you did. Thank you for this meeting. This is the first one I've been up here. Question is, since they're doing more burnout, just to kind of get everybody acclimated here, do we expect to see more smoke, less smoke, just so we know what we're looking for. Thank you.
Okay, good question, yep. Definitely, for the short period of time in the future, we definitely have some pretty good sizable blocks to burn out. Most of the smoke generation in this area is pretty much complete or will be complete by today, but when we start moving up here, you should expect to see some pretty good smoke generation in here. And that's not always bad, so, okay.
If they're doing a firing operation and it goes well, you will likely see a column of smoke going up. So just because you see a column of smoke that looks pretty intense and you see helicopter activity, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, as you said. It could be that that's exactly what they've planned. The helicopters will fly it in support of the burning operation to help pick up any spots that get across the line, or to slow it down if it begins to get a little bit too intense. They'll drop a little water on it to slow it down. So just because you see big columns of smoke and helicopters or even air tankers is not necessarily a bad thing. Really, what you want to pay attention to is, does it look like where you're seeing the smoke? Is it where they told us they were going to do the burning? If you see it some other place, then yeah, let's find out about it.
Marty, could you outline again from, say, Tuolumne City up through Longhorn where the fire line is and where you have good, what you're comfortable with, security lines, fire lines?
Okay, if y'all can see it then, it pretty much shows here this black line, that's Paper Cabin Ridge that goes down in Tuolumne River and carries around through here, and you can see right here on this dozer line, this is what they're firing out today and trying to finish up by tonight. So this will be the actual line, and right in here is where we expect to hold it the next time, right up in here, and we're looking for an alternate route to tie it in here somewhere. Again, this is that section of fire that slopped over into the Clavey and the Hole Creek drainages, and there's no roads up here. There's nothing to hold this fire, so we're having to pull back here, and we're looking for alternate control points here and here. Again, we want to hold the fire on this road right up here. We have this a little bit taken care of, but this is our expected northern containment line at this point.
That is a containment line right now at this point.
It is at this point, yes.
For the community has donated $1,100 to Alicia's Sugar Shack to feed the firefighters at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so if anyone wants to add to that, Alicia would be happy to take your money and feed the guys.
They are giving coffee out. I was there about 6:30 this morning, and she said she'd already had, I don't know, 70 or 80 firefighters come through there, so they're doing a brisk business. Let's do 2 more questions, because I think we're kind of finished for today. But again, we will meet again tomorrow here. Depending on what the fire does and the interest from the community, that may be our last meeting in this format for this purpose. But we'll play it by ear. We'll let you know tomorrow for sure. But again, tomorrow here at 4 o'clock, I'll be here. If you come, we'll have a meeting. Next question.
Marty, how much closer is the fire to our area from yesterday?
Oh, that's an easy question. I can answer that. Go ahead. It's no closer.
Yeah.
We're reporting to the Division F up there, the line that's going to be made up through there. Does Long Barn and Pinecrest have to worry about that more than we do, or where does that fire go after it breaks through Division F?
Okay. Yep. No, we got pretty good confidence. Again, a lot of these are roads, so we're expecting, just like down here, you got a plan and you work your plan. So we're really focusing a lot of efforts on making these really enforceable control lines, and we're even actually looking out ahead. We're not doing any work right up here very much, but we are scouting even further to the north off this map. So again, we do a great job of planning not only 2 days, 3 days, we're looking 4 or 5 days out if we need to. We gotta be prepared for this thing. We got it down, we're gonna put a stake in his heart.
Just a comment, as of 3:50, I was down in the bottom of Mi-Wuk, and Steve's crews, structure teams are cruising it. CAL FIRE's down there lemon. Just a first-hand report to all my neighbors. My background's the same as Steve's. I've been up here since '69. Dad in the police, mom in the fire department, so we appreciate everything you guys are doing. And I just want to let my neighbors know that it's actually what these guys say is what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank all the firefighters and the incident management team and the leadership they've provided. I'm not on the fire. I'm an old fire guy. I'm not attached to the fire. I'm not assigned to the fire. I don't have any fire to fight, so I couldn't find anything else to do except hold a meeting. So here we are, here we have been. Thank you all for coming, but really, I want to thank the firefighters more, and I wish they were all here to hear what you're doing.